Direct talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran are scheduled to begin this weekend, remarkably, on Iranian soil, with Iran serving as host and facilitator. The negotiations will focus on implementing a 14-day ceasefire, along with a series of conditions that both nations have laid on the table in the lead-up to the meeting. The backdrop to these talks is months of escalating rhetoric. The United States and Iran have been locked in a bitter war of words, with each side accusing the other of aggression, economic warfare, and violations of international law. At the heart of the conflict lies a narrow waterway that has become the most dangerous choke point in global energy markets, the Strait of Hormuz. US President Donald Trump has issued a blunt demand to Tehran: immediately stop demanding security payments from oil tankers transiting the Strait of Hormuz. According to Trump, his administration has received intelligence reports indicating that Iran is preparing to submit a formal plan to freeze and collect payments from ships passing through the strait. This move is wrong, Trump declared. It must be stopped immediately. Iran should not do what it is planning to do. The president added that peace in the region depends on Iran making more meaningful contributions, not merely halting its nuclear production, but also ceasing what he called economic extortion. Trump warned that he had received additional reports that Iran was preparing to expand its operations in the Gulf of Oman. The Gulf of Oman must not become a target of hostility, Trump said, noting that the upcoming negotiations are expected to take place in or near those very waters. Trump's remarks signal a clear message. At the negotiating table, the status of the Strait of Hormuz must be addressed, and it must be resolved immediately. The United States will not accept Iranian annexation or control of this vital international waterway. Trump further warned that Iran cannot now or in the future seize ships carrying oil through the strait. Such actions, he said, are unacceptable and contrary to the interests of the entire international community. The Strait of Hormuz must remain open and free for all nations, Trump concluded. Iran's response has been defiant, while the Islamic Republic has made significant concessions, most notably abandoning its long-standing efforts to produce a nuclear warhead. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC and many of the regime's senior leaders view the Strait of Hormuz as a matter of national sovereignty. For Iran, the strait is not merely a waterway, it is a lifeline. The IRGC, which serves as the regime's strongest military bulwark against both the United States and Israel, continues to assert that the strait falls under Iranian sovereignty. Iran claims the right to control the strait jointly with Oman, its neighbor across the water. However, the situation with Oman is complicated. At present, Oman has been conspicuously absent from the controversy. Omani authorities have not participated in collecting any fees or payments from oil tankers passing through the strait. While Oman shares control of the waterway, it has remained neutral. If Oman were to agree to cooperate with Iran, analysts say, it would be seen as a major geopolitical victory for Tehran, but that outcome appears unlikely for now. The core question for Iran is economic. How can Tehran extract revenue from the Strait of Hormuz to rebuild a country devastated by decades of war, sanctions, and most recently, what Iran describes as the most severe bombing campaign by the United States and Israel since the 40-day war? Iranian revolutionaries claim they have already given up a great deal at the negotiating table, including their nuclear program, but they insist that the strait must benefit Iran economically. Without that revenue, reconstruction is impossible. Yet the international community is not convinced. The case of the Strait of Hormuz remains unresolved, and pressure is mounting. More than 40 countries convened in London last week to discuss the crisis. France has emerged as a leading voice, seeking to pressure the Islamic Republic over the Strait of Hormuz. French officials, along with representatives from many other nations, have declared that they are deeply invested in the strait's security, so deeply, in fact, that existing treaties and agreements have already been implemented by both France and its allies. Yet France and its partners face a dilemma. They do not want to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz. They do not want a direct military confrontation with Iran. But the question remains, if they do not act, are they not inviting further Iranian aggression? India has taken the most stance. New Delhi has announced that if Indian ships passing through the Persian Gulf are captured by the Iranian Navy, India will retaliate by deploying its own warships to the Strait of Hormuz. India's position is legally and rhetorically sharp. The Strait of Hormuz is not a waterway that Iran built with its own labor, an Indian official declared. It is a natural phenomenon arising from the dynamic forces of nature. Iran has no right to claim ownership or control over it. If Iran continues to violate the principles of international maritime law, Iran must confront India. India's boldness is bolstered by a strategic reality. Iran's naval presence in the strait is severely diminished. The United States has reportedly sunk more than 60 Iranian warships in recent conflicts. What remains of the Iranian fleet consists largely of small boats and speedboats vessels capable of harassment and disruption, but utterly incapable of confronting a modern navy. If the United States were to launch a coordinated attack, Iran would have no warships to counter the American fleet in the Persian Gulf. To understand the stakes, one must appreciate the economic importance of the Persian Gulf. Nearly all cargo ships passing through the region carry goods from the Middle East, one of the world's largest producers of energy and manufactured goods for the global market. The Persian Gulf is the only viable route to transport cargo to the Asia-Pacific region, supplying an estimated 80% of that market's needs. China and India, the world's two largest powers, are deeply dependent on this waterway. Beijing has thus far resisted pressure to take sides, but not out of passivity. China insists that its sovereignty and economic interests must be respected. It views diplomacy as a means of reconciliation, not a tool to force one side to surrender. In practice, China continues to protect Iran's interests for a simple reason. China uses the Strait of Hormuz more than any other nation, including India. Any disruption to the strait would be catastrophic for the Chinese economy. As a result, Beijing has consistently urged restraint and negotiated solutions, even as it maintains its own territorial claims in other parts of the world. Iran's supreme leader has sought to navigate these treacherous waters carefully. He has affirmed that Iran does not seek war. Yet, he has also acknowledged that the situation in the Gulf of Oman represents a new intense phase in the negotiations. He has urged Middle Eastern countries to understand Iran's right to control the Strait of Hormuz. The supreme leader has also made clear that while Iran is not seeking war, it reserves the right to respond militarily to aggression at any time. President Trump has dismissed these statements as insufficient. Iran's leaders must make it clear, Trump said, whether they want to continue the war or whether they will end their seizure of the Gulf of Oman to extract money from global oil markets. Analysts warn that if Iran does not reach an agreement on this point, Iran will be the biggest loser. The Strait of Hormuz has become the single most important bargaining chip on the US-Iran negotiating table. Without it, Iran loses its primary source of leverage. But the Strait of Hormuz is not the only issue. Iran has explicitly linked the ceasefire negotiations to a second, geographically distant conflict, the war in southern Lebanon. As part of its 10-point peace conditions, Iran demands a negotiated end to the fighting in southern Lebanon, where Israel has been conducting military operations against militant groups on Lebanese territory. Iran insists that the implementation of a 14-day ceasefire cannot be limited to Iran alone. The ceasefire must extend to other areas, especially the Israeli war in southern Lebanon. If Israel does not agree to end the war in southern Lebanon, an Iranian official stated, then a 14-day ceasefire makes no sense. All countries in the Middle East must participate in implementing the ceasefire. This statement is widely seen as Iran's way of telling Israel that it is also a party to the Lebanon war, and that any comprehensive agreement must include Israeli concessions. The United States has rejected this linkage outright. State Department spokesperson Corona Lowit issued a clear statement. Iran should not link the Lebanon issue to the peace process. In these 14 days, Iran must tell the Lebanese militants to stop attacking Israel. That is a done deal. Iran must tell its own proxies to accept peace from Israel. Israel will not attack Lebanese militants again if the attacks cease. Lowit emphasized that the militants fighting on Lebanese soil are not part of the Lebanese government's armed forces. They are, she said, forces that the Islamic Republic of Iran uses on Lebanese territory to attack and destabilize Israel. The United States has now demanded that all Iranian-backed proxy groups, whether in Lebanon, Iraq, or elsewhere, stop all attacks on American forces, American bases, and the U.S. Embassy. These groups must be dismantled. The list of Iranian proxies includes Lebanese Hezbollah, a regular armed group in southern Lebanon, as the Palestinian militant group weakened but not destroyed. The Houthis in Yemen, militants who have seized territory from the internationally recognized government, various Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, groups that have carried out terrorist attacks on American bases, and the U.S. Embassy. These militants must be dealt with, Lowit said. There should be no more. Israel has distanced itself from the U.S.-Iran talks. Israeli officials announced that the negotiations have nothing to do with Israel's war in southern Lebanon. There is no connection. An Israeli spokesperson said that conflict is a separate issue. The war in southern Lebanon has been ongoing for many years, long before the recent US-Iran tensions. Lebanese militants continue to attack Israel, and Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel has categorically stated that the war in southern Lebanon is not related to the US-Iran ceasefire talks. The conflict, Israeli officials argue, predates the current crisis and is fundamentally a territorial dispute between Israel and Lebanon. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has even offered to negotiate directly with Lebanon. This is a matter between Israel and Lebanon, he said. There is no need for this issue to be discussed at the Iranian-American negotiating table. Lebanon must enter into negotiations with Israel directly. Iran, however, refuses to drop the issue. Tehran insists that it will use the southern Lebanon war as a counterweight to the Strait of Hormuz. The question facing diplomats is whether these two issues can be resolved together, whether a compromise can be found that benefits both sides. Observers see two possible outcomes. Iran might be willing to abandon its demands regarding Lebanon in exchange for concessions on the Strait of Hormuz. But analysts doubt Iran will give up the strait, especially after already abandoning its nuclear weapons program. For Tehran, the strait is the last remaining hostage it holds over the West. On the negotiating table hosted, ironically, in Pakistan with US participation, there are many potential paths forward, but the most important issue remains the Strait of Hormuz. Iran continues to hold its enemies hostage by demanding money from ships passing through the strait. The case of the Israeli war in southern Lebanon is another Iranian bargaining chip, a way to apply pressure on multiple fronts simultaneously. Observers warn that if these topics are not resolved quickly, the shouting will escalate into something far worse. Some leaders have already warned that a full-scale war with Iran could break out, and the more serious the conflict becomes, the more Iran will suffer. As the talks begin on Iranian soil, the world holds its breath. Both sides have already declared victory before a single word has been spoken, a dangerous habit that does not bode well for genuine compromise. The Iranian people, who have suffered through decades of war, sanctions, economic collapse, and internal repression, watch with exhausted hope. They know that the real losers in any war are not generals or politicians, but ordinary citizens trying to survive. The Strait of Hormuz remains the key. If Iran can extract economic concessions there, it may walk away from the table claiming victory. If the United States forces Iran to abandon the strait entirely, Tehran may feel it has nothing left to lose. And in that vacuum, war becomes not just possible, but inevitable. For now, the diplomats speak. The candles of diplomacy still flicker, but the guns are still loaded and the world is watching.